The flicker in the void, the Galactic observation station drifted quietly on the edge of the Orion belt. It was a lonely place filled with silent machines and tired officers. Lieutenant Varen sat before a wall of glowing screens, watching empty stars pass by. For months nothing had happened. No signal, no threat, just endless darkness. But that night something changed. A small flicker appeared on one of the outer sensors. At first Varen thought it was a glitch. Maybe dust or static interference. She leaned closer, adjusting the scanner's focus. The flicker became a pulse, rhythmic, strong, and alive. Her heartbeat quickened as she ran a diagnostic. The energy reading spiked higher, then vanished. She frowned and whispered, "Captain, I think we have something." Captain Loran, a tall, cold-eyed veteran, turned toward her station. He walked slowly, his boots echoing in the quiet control room. "What kind of signal?" he asked. Varen shook her head. "Unknown, sir, but it came from deep space. Far beyond mapped routes." Loran leaned over her shoulder, his gaze fixed on the dark monitor. "Run a full spectrum scan," he ordered. The system hummed, lights flickered, and suddenly every scanner in the room flared red. An alarm screamed through the deck. Power surged, systems strained. The display filled with hundreds of contacts, ships, massive ships moving together. They appeared like a wave, silent but unstoppable. The computers failed to identify their origin. "No transponder codes," Varen said nervously. "No radiation leak, no signatures." "Nothing," Loran's eyes narrowed. "That's impossible. Every fleet leaves a trace, but these didn't." The readings grew stronger. Every scanner in the station began to overheat. Technicians scrambled, shouting over the rising hum. The command deck filled with red light and fear. Then a sudden flash burst across all screens. Every display turned white, blinding them for seconds. When the light faded, the scanners showed a single word on their decoded output: human. Varen froze, her voice trembling. "That can't be right." Loran stared at the glowing letters, his jaw tightening. "Check again," he demanded. The machine processed the signal twice, thrice. The result stayed the same. Human transmission detected. Silence filled the room. Everyone knew the old stories. Humans, the Deathworlders. The ones who lived on a world too violent for any other species. The ones who fought wars until the stars themselves burned. The galaxy had destroyed them ages ago, or so they believed, Varen whispered. "But humanity is extinct." The captain did not answer. He only stared at the slowly forming shapes on the long-range scan. Hundreds of massive ships, each one moving in perfect coordination. Their energy readings were beyond anything recorded in galactic history. Even their shadows bent light. "They're coming this way," a young officer said, voice cracking with fear. The captain took a deep breath. "Then prepare the beacon. The council must see this." The distress beacon activated. Across nearby sectors, warning signals spread. Other stations reported the same strange readings, same pattern, same silence. Every sensor in the galaxy began to flare in sequence. The human fleet was not hiding. They wanted to be seen, as if announcing their return to the stars. The data traveled faster than light, spreading panic among empires. But inside the observation station, no one moved. They were too afraid to speak, too awed to breathe. Varen whispered again, almost to herself. "What if they remember us?" Her voice trembled. Carrying the fear of generations, the captain looked at the main display. The fleet had formed a wedge formation like a blade cutting through space. Every scanner pulse that touched them came back distorted. Their ships looked older and yet far more advanced. Some had no visible engines, no heat trails, no weak points. They were silent giants, and they were awake again. The power grid began to fail. The station shook under the pressure of so much radiation. Systems started shutting down one by one, yet the human signal kept growing stronger. It was not aggressive, but it was powerful, like thunder before a storm. Then a voice echoed through the comm systems. Deep and calm, Observation Station 9 Delta. "This is the Terran fleet." Varen froze, her mind blank. The voice continued. "We have returned," the message repeated 3 times. Then ended. Silence returned, but no one could move. Captain Loran finally spoke, his tone low and heavy. "Send everything to High Command right now." Varen nodded, her hands shaking as she transmitted the data. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen. The fleet was still moving closer, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. For a brief moment, she thought she saw a flag on one of the ships, blue and white, with a golden symbol of Earth. As the transmission left the station, The scanners overloaded completely. All lights went out, plunging the deck into darkness. The final flicker on the display showed one haunting image. A massive ship, shaped like a blade, its name glowing faintly on the hull. Oblivion's edge, the systems died. Leaving nothing but silence, Varen sat frozen in her chair, her heart pounding in her chest. Outside, the stars flickered as the human fleet passed through the void. Every scanner across the galaxy continued to flare and fail, as if the universe itself was warning. Humanity has returned. The panic of empires across the galaxy. Panic spread like fire in dry grass. The signal from the Terran fleet reached every corner of known space. Empires that had not spoken in centuries suddenly called for emergency councils. In the great halls of the Galactic Assembly, thousands of voices argued, shouted, and trembled. The word human echoed again and again, filling the air with dread. The Zyril Dominion, who had once led the final war against Earth, was the first to respond. Their supreme commander, Lord Kareth, stared at the transmission with cold horror. "This is a trick," he said, his voice unsteady. "Humans were wiped out. They can't return." But his advisors remained silent, their screens showing the same undeniable readings. Hundreds of ships all carrying the old Terran signal frequency. Every scanner confirmed it. The impossible was true. Humanity had come back from extinction. In the capital world of the Varan Collective, chaos ruled, markets crashed, fleets scrambled, and priests fell to their knees praying to forgotten gods. Children whispered stories of the Deathworlders who had once fought entire empires alone. And somewhere deep within an archive vault, a forgotten historian opened an ancient holographic file. It showed the last human battle, Earth burning. Yet the final transmission of their admiral had said, "We will return when the stars remember our name." Now the stars remembered. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. The chamber glowed with energy screens, and the air trembled from overlapping transmissions. Dozens of alien leaders appeared in shimmering light. Reptilian, crystalline, insectoid, feathered, and synthetic. Fear united them more than politics ever could. One of them, the archivist of Dren, spoke softly. "If the humans are truly back, the balance of power will collapse," the Zyril commander growled. "Then we must strike first before they strike us." But another voice interrupted, deep and cold. "And if they strike back, the memory of human wars haunted everyone." They remembered the siege of Andorra, when a single human ship destroyed a moon fleet in retaliation. They remembered how humans turned their planets into fortresses and refused to surrender. Every empire had built its peace on the myth that humans were gone forever. Now that myth was breaking apart. Meanwhile, in a shadowed observatory on the moon of Virel, scientists studied the Terran signal again. They discovered that it carried more than just words. It carried a pulse, an energy code woven into the message. When decrypted, it read, "Humanity remembers." The scientists exchanged terrified looks. It was not a threat, but a reminder. The message spread faster than any government could control. Across the galaxy, ordinary people began whispering the name Earth. For the first time in 1,000 years, the word meant something again. On the Zyril flagship Dominus Rex, Lord Kareth paced in fury. He barked orders to mobilize all fleets. "If they are real, we will erase them again." But even as his ships moved, strange malfunctions began to appear. Navigation systems failed, scanners flickered, and engines slowed without reason. Technicians shouted that something invisible was interfering with them. A cold realization struck Kareth. The humans were jamming them. Without firing a single shot, the Terran fleet had already crippled a galactic superpower. Far away on Observation Station 9 Delta, Varen and Captain Loran still waited in silence. Their power slowly returned, and the scanners flickered back to life. Varen whispered, "Sir, we're receiving another transmission." The captain turned. "From whom?" She hesitated. "It's from the Terran flagship." Loran's throat went dry as he listened. The message was simple and calm. "To all who hear us, stand down. We are not your enemy, unless you make us one." The message repeated 3 times, each word calm yet heavy with power. The council tried to block the broadcast, but it was too late. Every device, every ship, every station that could receive a signal had heard it. The galaxy trembled as one truth spread. The humans were watching everyone. Some planets celebrated, believing the humans would bring justice against the corrupt empires. Others hid, fearing vengeance from the ghost of history. Trade routes froze, war fleets hesitated, and silence fell across the stars. Varen looked out through the viewport of her station. In the distance, the Terran fleet drifted like a black sea of steel and light. Thousands of ships in perfect formation, quiet but alive. They made no move to attack, but their presence was enough to paralyze the galaxy. Loran said softly, "They don't need to fight to win." Varen nodded, her voice trembling. They just needed to come back. At that moment, something strange happened. Every scanner across the network showed a spike in energy, a wave traveling faster than light. It wasn't a weapon, it was a signal, a pulse from the Terran flagship. And when the data stabilized, the message appeared on every galactic display. "We are returning home." The council fell silent. The words were not war, they were prophecy. Everyone knew what it meant. The humans were not here to conquer the stars. They were heading back to the one place the galaxy had erased from the maps. Earth, as the news spread, billions looked to the sky. Every race, every empire, every soldier knew the same thing. History had not ended. It had only been waiting, and so began the great fear. The fear of the returning Deathworlders, the panic of empires, and the whisper that echoed across every world. The humans are coming. The signal that broke the silence. The galaxy had not slept since the return of the human fleet. Every world stayed on high alert, scanners burning with energy. Every empire listened, waiting for what the Terrans would do next. But no one expected what came next, a signal. Unlike any before, it did not come from a single source. It came from every human ship at once. At first it was only a low hum, deep and steady. Then, across every communication network, the hum became a pulse, a repeating rhythm. Echoing through subspace, engineers across the empires tried to decrypt it. But the pattern was too perfect, too complex, as if alive. Then suddenly, the pulse transformed into a voice, calm and clear. "This is Admiral Marcus Hale of the Terran fleet," the voice said. "To those who still remember Earth, we have returned." The words repeated 3 times, reaching every corner of the galaxy. In the Galactic Council chambers, silence fell so deep that even machines stopped humming. For the first time in centuries, no one spoke. Even the Zerel Dominion, the former conquerors of Earth, dared not respond. On the edge of known space, Observation Station 9 Delta received the same transmission. Varen's eyes widened as she listened to the voice. It was human, steady, strong, full of emotion that no synthetic could fake. She looked at Captain Loran, who stood frozen. "They're not bluffing," he whispered. "They're really back." But what the Terran said next sent a chill through every living being. "We come not for war but for truth," the voice continued. "What was taken from us will be restored, and what was hidden will be revealed." The signal carried with it data packets, encrypted records, ancient transmissions. When decrypted, they showed images of humanity's final days. Cities burning, fleets collapsing, children crying beneath alien bombardment, but also hidden messages, proof that not all humans had died. Some had escaped into the deep void beyond mapped space. They had waited, rebuilt, and evolved. The revelation shattered the galaxy's history. Everything the Council had taught for 1,000 years was a lie. The destruction of humanity had not been victory. It had been genocide, and the humans had known. They had remembered. Now they had returned. Not as victims, but as witnesses. In the Zerel war room, Lord Kareth threw a datapad across the floor. His scaled face twisted in rage. "This is propaganda," he shouted. But his officers were pale and silent. The transmission was verified. It was authentic. Even the energy signature matched pre-extinction Terran codes, a young officer whispered. "Sir, they're broadcasting from the Sol system." Kareth froze. "From Earth." The confirmation spread through every channel. Earth was active again. Scanners from hundreds of worlds tried to probe the system, but every attempt failed. Signals were reflected, redirected, or lost. Something enormous was protecting the Terran homeworld. Rumors began spreading of a shield field so vast it could hide entire fleets. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Meanwhile, the human transmission continued. Images of long-dead soldiers burned cities, and orbital bombardments filled every screen. The human voice said, "We remember every name, every betrayal, every scream." Then the message changed tone. "But we do not seek vengeance." That line confused everyone. Why would the Deathworlders hold back? The voice grew softer. "We seek balance. On a small moon near the Varan core, A group of alien scholars analyzed the transmission. They discovered something strange hidden deep inside the code. It was a second message. Invisible to most frequencies, when decoded, it read, "For those who stood with us, we remember your kindness." The message was signed by the Terran Remnant Council. That single line sparked hope among smaller races who once aided humanity in secret. For them, it meant they were not forgotten. Back on the Council homeworld, chaos exploded again. Some demanded war preparations, others begged for peace. But all communication systems began to fail one by one. Screens flickered, signals vanished, power grids faltered. Across the galaxy, scanners once again flared bright red. The pulse returned, stronger this time, deeper. But it wasn't coming from human ships anymore. It was coming from the stars themselves. The pulse spread through cosmic fields, carried by unknown technology. Every machine, every ship, every satellite responded to it. Even the AI cores of ancient empires began to echo the same rhythm. It was as if humanity had awakened something vast and invisible. Farron stared at her console, her voice shaking. "Sir, I think the humans just connected every system in the galaxy." Captain Loran could only whisper. "How?" The Terran technology was rewriting physics itself. They were communicating through space-time directly. Then once again, Admiral Hale's voice filled the galaxy. "This is the beginning of truth," he said, calm and unshaken. "For too long, the stars have been silent, but the silence ends now." And with those words, every scanner flared white again. The light was so bright it blinded sensors for light years. When it faded, every ship, every station, every planet received the same image, a single blue world. Shining with oceans and clouds, the message beneath it read, "Earth calls." And then the transmission ended. Silence returned, but it was not peace. It was the silence before something vast, something the galaxy had never faced before. The silence before humanity spoke again, and every empire, every ruler, every soul felt the same thing. Fear, awe, and the weight of destiny. Because the signal had not only broken the silence, it had awakened it, and now every race in the galaxy knew. The Deathworlders were not coming for war. They were coming for truth. The first contact after extinction. The message from Earth echoed through the galaxy. Every species that could hear the stars fell silent. The image of that blue planet lingered in the sky, haunting and beautiful. It was not just a world, it was a memory reborn. For 1,000 years they had said Earth was gone. But now it called out again across the void. The Terran fleet began to move slowly, like a storm waking after centuries of sleep. Thousands of ships turned their prows toward the heart of the galaxy. Every scanner tried to follow, but once again the readings grew unstable. Human ships moved with precision no one could understand. It was as if they were not flying through space but bending it. Observation Station 9 Delta tracked their path until systems began to overheat again. Lieutenant Varen wiped sweat from her forehead as alarm screamed. "Sir, they're changing formation," she said. Her voice trembling, Captain Loran stared at the screen in disbelief. The Terran fleet had arranged itself into a perfect circle around the Council's homeworld. A ring of light and metal, silent but filled with purpose. Across the planet, panic erupted. The Council ordered full planetary shields. Fleets scrambled to intercept, but none dared to fire first. Every race remembered what humans had done in the past when provoked. And so, in trembling silence, they waited. Then, a single Terran ship broke formation. It was enormous, shaped like a black spear, its hull gleaming with strange energy fields. Its name glowed faintly in white letters, Oblivion's Edge. From its bridge came the same calm voice that had haunted their dreams. "This is Admiral Marcus Hale of the Terran Fleet. We request communication with the Galactic Council." For a moment, no one answered. Then, after long hesitation, the Council speaker, a crystalline being named Altharan, replied. "This is the Galactic Council," the voice said, cautious and trembling. You were thought extinct." The human admiral smiled faintly. "So were the stars during the Dark Age, yet they still shine." A quiet tension filled the transmission. Admiral Hale's image appeared before the Council. A man in dark armor, his face marked by scars, his eyes cold but calm. Behind him stood officers, men and women, alive, strong, silent. The Council could barely speak, Altharan asked. "Why have you returned?" Hale's voice was steady. "To finish what began." Gasps filled the chamber. "War," one alien hissed, but Hale raised a hand. "No. Truth." He projected a recording. It showed the final battle of Earth, the Zyrel bombardment, the betrayal of the Council, and finally, the secret order that had condemned humanity to death. The chamber fell silent as the truth unfolded. Humanity had not been destroyed by war. They had been sacrificed for peace. The Council had traded Earth's destruction for stability among empires. But Hale did not shout, he did not threaten, he simply said, "We remember." The Zyrel representative stood in fury. "Lies," he shouted. "You twist history." Hale turned to him, his eyes sharp as blades. "Then why," he asked softly, "does your own archive contain the same files?" The Zyrel froze, his scales dimming. Everyone knew the humans were telling the truth. On the observation station, Varen watched the live transmission in awe. For the first time, she saw humans not as myths or monsters, but as survivors, broken yet unyielding, she whispered. "They're not here for revenge." Loran nodded slowly. "They're here for justice." Hale's tone softened. "To those who helped us, we remember you too," he said. "And for those who betrayed us, we forgive, but we will not forget." The council chamber fell quiet again. Then Hale spoke one final sentence. "Humanity returns to stand among the stars, not above them. Not below them, but as equals." Suddenly, the sky above the council world glowed. The Terran fleet activated a vast energy field that wrapped around the planet. Scanners overloaded instantly, showing impossible readings. Every scientist screamed about power levels that defied measurement. Yet the humans fired no weapons. Instead, the field stabilized and pulsed gently. Hale's voice returned. "This is not an attack, it is a shield. We protect those who face truth." In that moment, something extraordinary happened. The field reached out to the planet's orbit, repairing damaged satellites, healing decayed systems, even stabilizing power grids. The humans were repairing what the galaxy had broken. It was their silent message of strength and mercy. But beneath that mercy, there was power that could destroy worlds if needed. When the transmission ended, the human fleet stayed silent. No movement, no further signal, just presence. Like watchful guardians or judges waiting for the galaxy's response. Across thousands of worlds, people gathered to watch the sky. Children pointed, soldiers wept, rulers trembled. For the first time, they understood what humanity truly was. Not extinct, not forgotten, but awake. And as Varen stared out the viewport, she saw the faint reflection of Earth in the distance. A blue light flickering like a heartbeat, she whispered softly.
"Maybe extinction was never the end." And Captain Loran replied, "No, Lieutenant."
It was the beginning, far away on the Terran flagship. Admiral Hale looked toward the stars, his face calm, his eyes steady. He whispered to himself, "They feared our wrath, but they will learn our strength was never in war. It was in endurance." And as the fleet drifted silently over the galaxy's capital, every scanner once again began to flicker. Every world held its breath because humanity had spoken, and the universe was listening. When the scanners went blind, the galaxy held its breath. For days, the human fleet remained above the council world. Motionless, every empire, every system, every race watched and waited. No weapon fired, no signal came, no demand was made. The humans simply existed there, silent and untouchable. Scanners across the stars continued to struggle. Every attempt to read Terran energy signatures failed. Machines overloaded, satellites burned out. Power grids collapsed. The galaxy's greatest technology could not understand human silence. And that silence was more terrifying than war. In the council chamber, Speaker Althiran met with Admiral Marcus Hale one last time. The crystalline leader spoke carefully. "What is it you truly want, Admiral?" Hale stood calm, his eyes fixed on the holographic stars above them. "We came for answers," he said, "and now we have them." Althiran tilted his head, the sound of crystal ringing softly. "Then you will leave." Hale nodded slowly. "Yes, but not as you think, from orbit." The Terran fleet began to shift formation. The ships moved like clockwork, aligning perfectly over the planet's poles. Every scanner on the council world flared again, showing readings beyond measure. Waves of electromagnetic energy pulsed through the atmosphere. Then, one by one, scanners across the galaxy began to fail completely. Observation Station 9 Delta was the first to go dark. Varen slammed the console in frustration. "Sir, we're losing all signals." Captain Loran looked up at the dimming screens. "They're doing something we've never seen before," he said softly. The lights flickered and then, nothing. Every display turned black outside the window. The stars themselves seemed to fade. Across the galaxy, the same thing happened. Military sensors, trade beacons, communication arrays all went blind. Planets were cut off from each other in a wave of technological silence. It was as if the universe had been unplugged. But even in that darkness, something beautiful happened. The night sky began to glow with faint blue light. Not from stars, but from Terran ships drifting like silent constellations. Admiral Hale's voice came through one last transmission. "This is the Terran fleet," he said, his tone quiet, almost sorrowful. "For ages, we were hunted, erased, forgotten. But humanity learned to live in the dark. Now we give that darkness back to you, not as punishment, but as reminder. The galaxy built its peace on lies. Let it learn truth through silence." The transmission ended, and the signal vanished. For hours, no one could see anything beyond their own orbit. It was chaos and awe all at once. Some feared the humans had ended civilization, but then slowly scanners came back online one by one. When they did, every human ship was gone. The fleet had vanished completely. No trace, no warp trail, no radiation, nothing. It was as if they had never been there. But something was different. The stars looked brighter, cleaner. The cosmic noise that had filled space for centuries was gone. The galaxy had been purified. Varen stared at her scanner, whispering, "They erased the interference." Loran nodded slowly. "No, Lieutenant. They erased their presence." Across countless worlds, stories began to spread. Farmers claimed to see human silhouettes walking beneath alien suns. Miners found strange metal fragments deep beneath their colonies. And children began to dream of blue oceans and green forests they had never seen. The word Earth became sacred again. Some said the Terrans had ascended beyond space. Others said they had simply gone home. In the Galactic Council, Speaker Altheran stood before the empty hologram of Admiral Hale. He whispered, "We feared them for their strength, but their silence is what will haunt us." No one in the chamber spoke. The humans had not destroyed them, had not conquered them. They had simply reminded the galaxy that peace built on lies will always tremble. Far beyond known space, at the edge of a dying star, the Terran fleet drifted. The ship shone with faint blue light, their hulls scarred but proud. Admiral Hale stood on the bridge of Oblivion's edge, looking toward the horizon of nothingness. A voice came from his second officer. "Sir, the Council world is stable. Their systems are returning." Hale nodded. "Good, then our work here is done. Where to next?" "Admiral," the officer asked. Hale smiled faintly. "Home." He turned toward the viewing glass, and there it was, a single blue world, shining softly across the void, the Earth alive again. Protected by energy fields unseen to alien eyes, it pulsed gently, like a heart remembering how to beat. The fleet began to move, slow and graceful, forming into lines of silver light. As they entered hyperspace, Hale whispered, "Let them remember our silence more than our fire." And then, in a whisper of light, the Terran fleet was gone. Back on Observation Station 9 Delta, Varen stood by the viewport. The scanners were still flickering from the overload. She watched the stars return, brighter and more peaceful than before. Loran stepped beside her. "It's over," he said quietly. Varen nodded. "No, sir, it's only beginning." He raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly, eyes still on the stars. "They'll never forget what happened here." And somewhere, across the cosmos, a message appeared again on a forgotten relay. Simple, silent, powerful. Humanity remembers. The galaxy looked up once more, wondering when the scanners would flare again. And deep in the void, where no signal could reach, a faint blue pulse answered. A heartbeat of a species that refused to die. The Deathworlders had returned, and the stars would never forget them.